Hi, I'm Kristina Dennis, and you are listening to the Recovered Life Show. Every week, we bring you a Recovered Life discussion all about setting healthy boundaries and how codependency could be keeping you from living your best recovered life. Remember, addiction is a life-threatening condition, and the information in this discussion is provided as a resource only and is not to be used or relied on for any diagnostic or treatment purposes. This is not a substitute when professional diagnosis or treatment is needed. Now let's jump into the discussion.
Hi, everybody. This is Kristina Dennis, and you are in Recovered Life Discussions. And the name of the room is Setting Healthy Boundaries. My name is Kristina Dennis. I'm a recovery coach and an expert who focuses on breaking codependent patterns. And I so appreciate those of you that have come to the room and you were willing to wait those 2 minutes of silence while I was trying to figure out my app. So today, June 1st, we are going to discuss setting boundaries, and I want to share some information and some things, a situation that is happening to me in real time, and to just clear up some of or set some of the rules out there. This recording is rebroadcasted, and so I always want to share that up front for those of you that are going to come up and share. Hopefully that you know to use first names only, and of course we have a code of mutual respect and kindness. So when sharing, we will be careful to kind of speak through that lens. So I am in recovery, and I have been in recovery from alcoholism since 1997. And very shortly after, within 2 years, I started working on my codependency. I was introduced to the program because I was absolutely obsessed and in love with a fellow alcoholic who was a sex addict. And I wanted more than anything to get this particular fellow back in love with me and to stop looking at pornography. And I had no anesthesia in me and was losing my mind. And that was how I was introduced to the term codependency, and realized, maybe not right away, but started to realize that every relationship that I had been in and had been in codependent manner. And I'm very, very open about that. I still struggle with these codependent patterns. I still struggle with knowing how to set healthy boundaries. So last year, when I became part of Recovered Life and met many of you wonderful people on this app, I was asked to pick a subject that was near and dear to my heart that I could probably talk about forever. And so I knew, and still know to this day, that one of the reasons why I named the room Setting Healthy Boundaries is because I still struggle with it. And I am still not comfortable all the time setting boundaries. And when we think about recovery within codependent behaviors, it's much more squishy than it is with substance abuse, which is one of the reasons why I think it's so important to discuss what recovery behaviors look like and to talk about sobriety around our behaviors. For me, I started to realize that I was treating my codependency with alcohol, that I didn't have any boundaries, and what I thought was true love and true friendship was actually called enmeshment. And that is one of the reasons why I think that we will be talking about setting healthy boundaries throughout our entire recovery program, because defining your sobriety around it is not the same as when you just put down the drink or put down the drug. And I've shared this before, but for those that are newer to the room, codependents are not the image, because as you study the word codependency and the term codependency, it was actually created in the 80s, and it was in direct it came from Alcoholics Anonymous, and the definition was that it referred to a partner of somebody who had a alcohol problem, and the partner was struggling to actually exist even if the person was sober. They were struggling to have their own wants and needs. And I have to say that over the years, it's grown into, in some cases, this image of somebody being really needy and clingy and kind of a stalker. And that's just not the case. It is an incorrect, and although I'm sure there are codependents out there that appear that way, but that is not what we are talking about in this room. Codependency in short form is the obsession of taking care of somebody else's needs, even to the detriment of our needs. So it's a behavior pattern where we focus on someone else's needs before our own. And that kind of can be squishy, right? A circular definition. And so I love that we get together every week. And at this point, I want to ask if anybody is feeling particularly chatty or wants to weigh in. This will be a lot more fun and interesting if you are in a place where you can raise your hand and share. The particular situation that I want to describe today is something that I'm right smack in the middle of. And I wondered, should I share this on a public forum? Is this going to be helpful for anyone? Is it going to be helpful for me? And the answer to that question is yes, because it's fresh and it's new, and I hope what it does is kind of bring clarity and also help me get a little clearer on exactly what I want to do with this situation and how anybody would do this. I had in my recovery a lot of relationships, and growing up, I didn't grow up in the most supportive house, and I didn't have a lot of focus put on me. And so I have a very soft spot for younger girls that, also are living in difficult situations. And through my recovery out here in California, I met a young girl who was the daughter of one of my friends, and basically became her second mother. I started babysitting her at 4. Her mom, her birth mom, really struggled with this disease and couldn't be present for her daughter. And I became very, very much a surrogate mother and loved it, truly loved it. I brought her to meetings when she became of age. And at one point in time, she moved in with me. And around this age, she was 19. So she had been in my life for 15 years. I had taken her on vacation. She was my son's sister. And the relationship was very, very enmeshed. And I started to struggle with the divorce to my son's father, and I didn't have enough bandwidth to supply this young person with what she perceived she needed. And there was a time, and this is about 6 years ago, perhaps 5, where she got very angry about something that I did. And it was really, really out of control. And it broke my heart. I mean, she said some awful things to me, that she wishes I die alone, and she wants me to be in a car accident. And and at that time I knew that it was the pain that she had from not getting what she needed as a child, but I didn't have very much bandwidth left to be able to kind of step out of it. And the first time it happened, I was able to, kind of sit through it. She lived with me and my son at that time, and she worked for me, and I'm sure you can start to see the picture. And at the time, the first time it happened, I was able to kind of, sit with it, and she apologized, and I shared, how much it had hurt me, and also, shared that I wanted to help her get support, but that I no longer had the capacity to be there with her at that level that I had in the past. And, looking at it now, I can easily recognize how codependent I was with her and how I had set it up to that how much I enjoyed her reliance on me. But unfortunately, her behaviors didn't stay in that kind of remorseful place. And within a couple weeks, she started having outbursts and anger, and started showing up at my house, because I was in a place where I could set a boundary and say, you need to move out of the home while we work through this. And there was one time where she came to my home and started demanding and screaming, and there were children there, and I needed to excuse her. She wouldn't leave. I told her, you need to leave my property, you need to go settle down, and she wouldn't. And eventually I shared that I would call the police if she didn't. And that really hurt, and I was scared. I made some choices for her not to be around my son, and I struggled with that ending of that relationship. And throughout the years, I would receive emails from her, all from a position of, I feel sorry for you because you don't get to be part of my life. And at that point, it was obvious what her position was. It was still anger, and it was, frankly, a lot easier for me to not have to contend with it. When I finally realized that I had not been, my boundaries had not been very good, and that I also wasn't responsible for her meltdown, that she was going to have to go through this and find people that could support her that had the right bandwidth. And so she moved out of state, and through the magic of social media, would reach out to me occasionally over the years. And we have common friends, and so I would hear things, and I started to heal. I started to not feel that extreme pain when we would think about, or I would hear something that was happening to her, and I wasn't going back there and reliving the trauma. And last year, she sent a message through Instagram saying, somehow I came across your account and I see that you're doing really well, and that makes me happy. And I felt pretty comfortable responding and saying, thank you. It looks like you're happy too, and I'm glad, because that truly is how I feel. I don't wish her ill. I want good things to happen for her. I've always wanted good things to happen for her. I love her, but I also love me. And yesterday she sent me a message letting me know that she was in town, and would I consider having coffee with her. And it took me a while to get it, because we're not connected on social media, and I didn't see it, and I don't look at all the messages. I work very hard to have some distance between me and my social media accounts for my own sanity. And so I responded later on in the day and said, yes, Kathy, please, I would love for you to come on. Later on in the day, saying, honestly, I didn't see this till now. I don't want you to think that I ignored it. Congratulations on marrying. And that was it, I wish you well. Because I had assumed that the time had passed that she could have coffee. And she responded saying thank you. And today, as I was doing my, morning things and looking at social media, I understood that she's actually here for this whole week. And I am struggling with it. And so I share this so that people know that these are hard behaviors to overcome. And
Hey, Kristina, you're on mic, off mic.
thank you, thank you. And so I am struggling with this contact because a huge part of me wants reconciliation, and a huge part of me wants to have this story be a beautiful ending about reconciliation and how much healing we can have. But there's also a part of me that says no. There's no information on her side that she wants to apologize for what she's saying, and and acknowledge that her behavior was out of control, or even acknowledge the hurt. And so, as a person in recovery from codependency, I am going to take my own advice and share it, which is what I'm doing right now. Thank you for indulging me and listening to this story. And start to uncover the beliefs that are at war within myself. Am I a person who can move forward and forgive? Yes, I can do that, and I have done that. I wish nothing negative to happen to this person. I really want nothing but great things. Has this person shown me any signs of that they recognize that their behavior was really hurtful? No, you know, no, they haven't. A couple of text messages that say, it seems like you're doing good, is not the same as acknowledging that her actions hurt. And so I'm going to continue to sit on it and wait. And I don't like being uncomfortable in it, but I have to acknowledge, and this is what we do in recovery from codependent behaviors. I have to be honest and acknowledge that there is a real part of me that is sad that it happened, and there is a big part of me that wants to step into that role of being her second mother and being part of her life. But there's also a large part of me that understands that I don't have to, and I don't have to put myself through anything, and there hasn't been enough evidence for me to, meet this person in real life. And so I thought it would be a very helpful thing as we talk about setting healthy boundaries to share where I am and to ask people. I would love feedback, but also, where does this show up in your life? And what happens to you, and how do you make decisions? A lot of codependency recovery is sitting on our hands and letting the people we love find their own footing and suffer their own consequences. And it's painful to watch. And I think it's easy sometimes when we get into recovery to paint our picture paint the picture of ourselves that we are manipulative and we're trying to control everybody. But that isn't 100% the truth either. There is this deep desire to be loved and to be empathetic and want to help. And so, with that, I thought I would open it up to the room and ask if there are people within the room that I know are also pursuing codependency recovery. What would you do and what have you done? And Kathy, thank you for volunteering to mod with me.
That's okay, Kristina. I'm very sorry I was late for your room and I missed all of what was I missed a lot of what was a very powerful share. I can hear it in your voice. I can also hear some peace in your voice, which makes me happy. I'm just very drawn to that phrase, sitting on your hands. Sounds easy, doesn't it? It's not, but it is the best way, and it comes with practice and patience, and with the opportunity to get better at it every time. I found myself in, as I say, I didn't hear all of your share, Kristina, so I'm not going to comment on it, but I found myself in a situation where my codependency really flared up a couple of days ago, to the point where I was ready to lash out, to be resentful, to take on all the negative, to believe every crappy thing I've ever thought about myself in this one exchange with a friend. And I didn't, because another friend who I have said, "You're being an arse. You're not. You don't know what's going on. So stop assuming." And I'm very thankful for them for doing that to me, because that helped an awful lot. And sitting on your hands is something. It's like the sigh, isn't it? It's taking that breath, taking that space to hopefully make a better decision. It doesn't help with the hurt often, or the confusion, but a measured response is a better response, I think. So that's all I'll say for now, because I missed the early part of the room, which I'm sincerely sorry for. So I will pass on to Kat. Kristina?
Yes, well, let me respond really quickly, Kathy, because I
Sure.
loved what you shared about, having people in our life that can point out when we are confused and how important that is. How, I mean, it is truly one of the biggest gifts when we are honest with our friends. And, when I first started recovery, I didn't have people around me that that would go against me. Really, everybody was on my payroll in many ways, and that was by design because I didn't feel safe. And so now, now I have people that I can say, this is what I'm thinking, and I'm confused, and they can gently remind me, well, what has she done that shows you that there has been a change, and where has she addressed it? And and you are right, sitting on your hands it's such an unsatisfactory piece of direction, that I would bristle against when I was told that at the beginning of my recovery. Like, what is that going to do? I need to rush in there and handle it, because my survival skills would kick in. And that is how I survived, was rushing in and helping people. And so it's very gentle when we have friends that share with us, and so important. And I really appreciate you bringing that part forward. Hello, Kat. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Thank you for the vulnerability and letting us see you, Christina, and what you're handling. Man, I can so relate. I'm with you, sister. I don't know. I don't think I have any. I don't know. I all I know is that since quarantine, I have integrated back into in-person meetings and the fellowship and so many people, and I'm just kind of like screaming inside because there's like so much history. I've been in the same group for 4.5 years, and things change so quickly in these recovery rooms. It's absolutely mind-blowing how fast things change. And I have to remember, like, I have to have faith that everything that's happened is for the greater good, I think. And I don't know, recently, because me and my ex share the same home group, um, my codependency has just been flying off the handles, and I feel a little like imploding inside because, sitting on my hands and not doing anything, like, I'm still left with all that, all the backstory, right? Like, my childhood growing up with sisters and constantly feeling like I had to compete with them, which correlates to me being competitive. I work on it a lot, but my instinct is to compete with women. And although my head knows that's not right, I love women. We support each other, you know, sisterhood, feminism. I'm all for that. But my internal emotional response is still just so, I don't know. My ex has been bringing our old dog to meetings. And a girl that I didn't know was saying her name, and I'm like, like, inside I'm thinking, like, how does she know my dog's name, and blah 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 blah, they must be and my head just creates this narrative that's like completely out of left field, and I'm just watching it happen. And I think for me, like, nipping the monologue as fast as I possibly can before it becomes a reality and snowballs and creates action, because my thoughts eventually turn to action, and that's what I can't have happen. So it's like for me, it's like alarms going off, bells going off in my head. Get back to that spiritual self, get back to that center, go do what you need to do, take care of me before I can step back into the world and be a loving, kind, you know, being of service, putting, others' needs, like, well, I guess for codependency, knowing where I stop and you begin, right? And I think that's how the saying goes. But yeah, I don't know. My goal today is to carry myself in grace and in loving kindness. And if I'm not doing that, I know it's within myself, and I need to go take a step back and recenter. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but thank you for letting me share.
If you are newly sober, trying to get sober, or you've been sober for decades and are looking to take your sobriety to the next level, the Recovery Breakthrough 6-week transformation concierge coaching program might be right for you. Have Damon Frank and Kristina Dennis build a custom roadmap to get you on the path to getting what you really need. Receive hands-on concierge coaching and stay focused and productive with our daily check-ins. If you're ready to experience your recovery breakthrough and start the journey towards the transformation you deserve, book a free get-to-know-you call today and find out what is possible in your recovery. To find out more about Recovery Breakthrough and to book your free call, go to recoveredlife.us. That's recoveredlife.us.
It's so made sense, Kat. I mean, as you were sharing that somebody else is calling your dog's name, I felt this, this brush, like it bubbled up inside of me, like, well, why does she get to know her name? And you said some very powerful things that I think are important to point out, because they have to do with recovery of codependency. And it's that giving ourselves that pause, so that we can take care of ourselves first. And this is one of the I don't know, paradoxes of codependency recovery within alcohol or substance abuse recovery. We are told, the reason why we're told is because it's incredibly effective to be of service to others. And then where does that line that we've dipped into and went over the service line, and and now we are trying to manipulate and control others. And it's the reason why, like you said, thoughts provoke action, and thoughts provoke feelings, and feelings provoke thoughts. And the way to untangle that is to, one, acknowledge and to try to remove judgment of ourselves, which is incredibly difficult. I mean, it's important that we assess and, use our lens when we're looking at our own behavior. It's important that we be aware and have some of it is a critical eye. I mean, that's important, right? If we didn't have some of that guiding compass, we could act in terrible ways. So it's this integration of they use the word character defects. I use the word survival skills. It's this integration of when is it good, when is it too much, and where do I start? And that has to be with learning how to sit in within ourselves. Because I'll tell you, when I am traumatized, I believe wholeheartedly, or let's say I'm triggered, I believe wholeheartedly that what I'm thinking is 100% truth. I believe that I know what that other person is going to do and what that other person has done. And I mean, bless me that I had to grow that skill as a child in order to feel safe and have some control. I mean, that's okay that that's there, but giving myself that pause so that I can wait and see what that other person is actually doing and what they mean by the things they say, and I ask questions and I clarify. It gives me the opportunity to react and respond in a way that's more in alignment with my value system. And I always go back to this. And we've had some shows on the Recovered Life podcast around God's will and, how do you know you've surrendered and all of that. And it always comes down to what we learn in recovery is we learn our value system and what we most want to be aligned with. And so when I'm looking at every behavior, including this one, it's like, who do I most want to be? I want to be a loving person who has good boundaries. And what does that look like? And making it more of a cognitive experience, it really, really helps me. And I don't know the right thing to do every single time. But, if I look at it and say, okay, what can I do in this situation? What do I really have in front of me? Most often, the next thing that I can do is attend to my nervous system and wait. And it's unsatisfactory sometimes. But I need that distance. So thank you. All right. Amber.
Hey guys, thank you for sharing that, Christina. It's very thought provoking, and it does like kind of make me think about like how would I handle that situation, or what would I think. The things that popped up to me, I've never really been in a situation exactly like that, but the things that popped up to me that you were talking about is something that I kind of look for. Is the first one you said, not rushing to save them, or like not rushing to like save the situation or fix it. I know for me that's been a big game changer. And that's kind of like that pause that you're talking about, because I was like, yeah, I've had to really embody that and practice that of like, no, I don't have to fix everything, and no, I don't have to rush and like make it everything like better in this conversation or connection. And I think and you were saying how it can be really painful also to kind of see the person be in themselves and be in that situation without you trying to fix it, or me trying to fix it, or us trying to fix it, or whatever. And that's that's a big one. And I think it does kind of, that's just, I know that can be difficult, but that's also a really powerful one. And the other part was, I notice the one other thing that I have to notice about myself is when I'm overextending myself. That's when I feel like I'm doing something that's not of, that's like kind of breaking my own boundaries. That's what it feels like. It feels like my body, or my emotions, or my energy is like overextending. And then I also know that for me, that's kind of a sign to be aware of, that something is, I'm taking from myself something that I shouldn't be taking from myself. So those are the things I have to watch out for, just to kind of be back in my place and not to cross boundaries. But other than that, I really appreciate it. This is definitely thought provoking, and I'm really enjoying everyone's shares. So thank you.
I love that, Amber. I love that awareness of overextending yourself. I think that is so important. I overextended myself quite recently. Not to make it all about me, but I had to take an entire break from Clubhouse, from people in real life, just from people, and that's not good. That's not how I want to be. But it's learning from it. Like you said, but you sound really aware of it, and I think that's great for you. And I think I'm getting better at it. I'm still a little reactive rather than proactive about it. And it's going to be my tendency, I think. But I think with practice and sitting on my hands a bit more, that's going to be easier for me. And I don't want to kind of go from 0 to 60 and then, not be able to finish the last lap. I want to be present and there, and I need to do the no thing. And thank you for bringing that up, Amber. Overextending, that's a word that's going to stay with me, I think, all night tonight while I think on this room. And Kat, just to say, I like your process that you get to, that you say, I will treat this day with, I can't remember exactly what you said, I'm sorry, but I will go into this day with gratitude and openness, and I think that was the gist of what you said. As I say, I can't remember the exact ones, so I'm very sorry. But yeah, thank you both. I really got a lot out of both those shares. Kristina?
Yes, I was over here cheering, having an understanding of our own limits. I mean, when we take care of ourselves first, we no longer need other people to fill in those gaps. And I mean, this was exactly why I got into the kind of relationships that I got into. And when I say this, I'm not saying it in a negativity toward myself. I understand why I felt like this was the way to live. I have been taught that. I have been told it's your job to make your mother happy. And when she's suicidal, you did something wrong. I mean, those were the messages that were sent. So I had this real idea that it was my job to take care of everybody. And I was always hoping that somebody else was responsible for taking care of me. And I remember the first room that we ever did around setting healthy boundaries, I shared that the first step to recovery is self-love. And I still believe this. And that's one of the filters in which I look at, which I look at whenever I'm trying to figure out my next action. What is the most loving thing to me to do next? And it's not being selfish. It's not being self-serving in the negative manner. It's taking responsibility for myself, my nervous system, my needs, so that I can show up and be most useful to my fellows. So I really appreciate that you brought that up. And anytime I'm working with somebody, our first step, I'm putting together an actual workbook for kind of first steps toward recovery for codependency. It'll be, completely complimentary. It's just a nice place for people to, download and look at. And the first step in that is always about what kind of spiritual contract, what personal care contract can I enter into immediately to start getting myself, to start taking care of myself, and to start relieving others of the responsibility to take care of my nervous system. And it seems, I'm completely compassionate toward people that are like, but that's not my problem. My problem is I can't get this other person to behave like I want them to, so I feel safe. And I so understand that, because that was me, when I would reach out to somebody, a mentor, and I was struggling within that relationship that brought me to a support group for codependency. I needed him to quit getting other girls' phone numbers, and in order for me to feel safe. And the response would be, how do you take care of yourself in the next hour? And I would become incredibly frustrated. This takes a little bit of time to kind of understand. We are literally breaking down belief systems that we had, that were instilled in us before we were even able to be verbal. So always be kind to yourself, and finds a group of people or somebody who can walk you through this recovery that will do it in a loving way, because that is the second most universal truth. I never get there faster by beating the hell out of myself. And that's important for me to remember, because I may not know what the solution is, but I absolutely know that for me to become harsh with myself will slow me down. And thank you. Thank you so much, Amber, for having it. And please, we still have about 15 more minutes. So anybody who wants to come up and share an insight, you are welcome to. This is how we recover, by being honest and sharing. All right, Charlotte, thanks for coming up.
Sorry, it took me a second to get back to Clubhouse. Thanks for having me up here. Christina, I heard a lot of myself in the story that you told. I recently had to set a boundary with someone, and I sought the counsel of a lot of people that I trusted, talking about it and sitting on my hands for a long time. But it got to the point where, like, it truly was affecting my life, to the fact that, like, I was having these like really intrusive dreams about this person, and I felt like this person wasn't respecting some boundaries that I put up. And unfortunately, like, I guess my requirement for my job is social media, and this person kept reaching out publicly on my social media, but would never, like, a year ago, I would have considered this person like one of my best friends. And I had something really tragic happen just over a year ago. And initially, they were there for me. And I understand grief is hard, and witnessing other people's grief is hard. But I tried to reach out several times. And the response I always got was too busy, can't do it. And there was never any reciprocation of like any type of friendship that wasn't like entirely and completely public and virtual. And I had to just set that boundary. And it there's something really soothing to hear you say that it's not selfish, and that it's kind of like the most loving thing for me to do next. And like the idea of a personal care contract is like radical to me, but it's not controlling. I did this for myself. I set this boundary for myself because it was painful to see this person popping up all the time, and be so far yet so close. And it was just, yeah, it was hard. These things are, I don't think these things are intended to be easy, but having this awareness of overextending myself to someone who is just unable to reciprocate it, like I want friendships in my life that make me feel good, that I don't have to like stress about to the point where I like can't stop like having nightmares. Um, so, like just attending to my own nervous system and, needing that distance was a big deal for me because I struggle to set boundaries and it was a really hard one to set. I like this person and I want to be friends with them, but not in this capacity where I don't feel like it's authentic and it's hard. Um, so I appreciate this room. It's giving me a lot of reminders to continue sitting and waiting and just do the next best thing for myself. And I think I'm done. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charlotte. And I really understood the complexity of that. When people do things because they want it to be perceived as, they are caring, and how tricky it is to really kind of, is what I'm seeing real? Oh, well, they reach out this way. And I have to tell you, part of my recovery, and when I really realized that I had 100 pennies instead of 4 quarters, in relationships, even though I was attending codependent recovery, was when my son was diagnosed. People cannot tolerate pain and chronic pain in somebody very well. And it's no fault. I mean, no, I'm not sure. I don't know if I believe that. I was going to say it's no fault of their own because I don't know if I truly believe that. I believe some people could work on it, but it is the reality. And those aren't my people. They weren't meant to go on this road with me. And that was very, very painful when that happened because, my son's father and I were both in recovery, and we had this idea that people would be able to stay with the grief, and they couldn't. And it broke my heart on many occasions. But now, 15 years down this road with my son and things not being as I had hoped for him and his health, I now see, yeah, I have a lot less friends per se, but the friendships I have with each one of them is deep. And I know without a doubt that they're going to show up. But it took work, right? And so as we grow in our recovery from codependency, there will be people that we lose. And, some other truths that I know for sure is the angrier somebody gets when I set a boundary that's taking care of me, the less they are supposed to be in my life. And when I work with people, this is a true fear. And it's not dramatic. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but it's really the truth. When you're raised in a home where you had no choice but to say yes, that no was never a viable option for you or even tolerated, the first couple of times we say no, we will have a visceral response. I'll speak in I terms. The first time I said no, the anxiety was huge, and I really did feel like it was life or death. Like, because that's what I had been taught, to say no to somebody is to put yourself in physical danger. And for people who don't get boundaries or don't struggle with boundaries, I'm, so pleased. I have met one person in my life that I kind of think may not have a problem with setting boundaries. And I've met a lot of people. And so, I want to share about something, and I'd love if the people up on the stage want to respond. There is a common thing that is said in a 12-step program, that expectations are future resentments. And I hear a lot, well, you shouldn't have expectations. That's why you're angry. That's why you got disappointed. And I struggle with this as a recovering codependent. And I'm not saying that my way or my thought is the only way, but I think it would be a great thing to ponder for the rest of the day, or, perhaps even a really good topic for another room. I believe wholeheartedly, because I've been struggling with this, and it was drilled into me at the beginning of my recovery. You can't have expectations. You can't have expectations. And I don't quite understand how anybody cannot have expectations within a relationship. There are certain boundaries. If you are married and monogamy is important to you, it is an expectation, and to me, a very okay expectation, that your partner will not cheat, or go off and do things with another person that are intended to stay within the relationship. I believe that unexpressed expectations are what causes resentment. I think those are the ones that that get us into trouble within a relationship. And we can go in and talk about resentment and how that word really is what really constitutes a resentment. But to me, unexpressed expectations are the danger. And I'd love to see how Kathy and Kat and Amber, if you want to speak to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. We don't have those conversations. We have those conversations going into relationships in like a contract in business or something, where it's very clear what's expected on both sides. We do not have them with. I guess we do a bit with romantic partners. If you get married and stuff, there's you'd hope that conversation will start about what's expected, but we don't with friends, and that's maybe because it would feel very weird. But it's useful to. I think it's a useful practice to have. I think one of the best lessons we could teach young people in life early on is that with friendships, it's quality, not quantity, is what will make you happy. And that will mean disappointment, that will mean arguments, that all the normal things that come with friendship. But if you have a standard that you expect, then share it. Let people know, I don't like you being late, or I get irritated when you're late. I don't like it when you do this, do that, that irritate. Just put some of the things out there. Otherwise, they do blow up, and you have a huge argument at 4 a.m. after a nice night out or something, and you're screaming at each other over like the bill in the restaurant or something, and it's not about that. So I think that's it's a good watchword, a good phrase rather, to keep on board. But I think, yeah, it's the unsaid expectations, silent expectations. They're the ones that get us into trouble. So yeah, that's an interesting one. We could do a month on that one, Kristina, I think.
We will. No.
We will. Okay, right.
We will. We'll talk about it.
Okay, thank you. Kat. Oh, sorry,
I was just going
Kristina.
to say, so good. So good. Thank you. Kat?
Hey, expectations. Ooh, I, I, I do that. So for me, I was just thinking, like, expectation feels quick, and for me, quick is never good, like a snap response. And then I'm also thinking about my expectations are based off of my lived reality, which, Disney princesses and, marketing and all that played a huge role, media. So I guess what I'm trying to portray is my expectations are just delusions, really. And when I slow down and don't have expectation, then I'm pleasantly surprised. And I allow myself to be pleasantly surprised by the small things in life that, you know, it really is about the little things that make me really, really happy and come from unexpected experiences and places and new things. And not that I don't slip into expectation, because, that's how I'm wired. We want to produce things that are comfortable to keep us safe. And unfortunately, that's just not how it works out most of the time. With risk comes great reward, and I hate to be corny, but yeah, that's kind of what I think about expectations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I do want to give Amber or Charlotte the opportunity to weigh in if you'd like.
Yeah. My expectations is like my perception of it is a little woo woo, but I kind of feel like expectations might be like when I feel into expectations, there's kind of like a little bit of like a negative vibe on some level of like, I expect you to do this or else or whatever. But then it's like, okay, but how do you project, like, how do you have expectations in a positive way? And I see that more in like faith and belief and like pushing out the positivity of what you like are calling in or whatever that is. And so I think that I play more with like assumptions. Like I really enjoy like creating more positive assumptions for things. And then also, of course, like connection and being on the same page with somebody. But expectations, yeah, I think it might just the energy around it. I don't like that word. I like belief or faith or other words that project more positive results for some reason. I think expectations can be, yeah, like like we said, it can have a whole month on it, because I think that there's something that is a little off about it, because there is a lot of people have different opinions on it. That just feels a little weird, and I don't know why that is. So yeah, it's interesting. I definitely think this is like a good topic for multiple sessions.
Awesome. Charlotte, did you want to weigh in real
Real
quick?
quick, I promise. Um, I think for me, it's just being aware that I'm having expectation that's important. And definitely like assessing whether that's, like Kat said, like delusional or kind of like what kind of expectations I'm having. A lot of my expectations are simply reciprocity, and like not perfect reciprocity, but like some type of reciprocal relationship that is not just me asking and getting denied a lot, because that's been a lot of my experience, and I don't have time for that anymore. So that's it.
Oh, that's that. I mean, both Amber and you brought in some really good points. And I think that I'm going to write some notes about it, because I think that for next Wednesday, it would be amazing to talk about the words expectation and what that actually means and directness. For people that join the room and are maybe not part of this community yet, please click Recovered Life, the link above. It's completely free. We go deeper into many conversations around recovery, and everyone who is choosing to live in recovery is welcome, or loved ones. Obviously, everyone is welcome, where we can have a little further conversation. Thank you, everybody. I feel 100% better, even though I don't exactly know what I'm going to do next. But the fact that I honored myself and told the truth to some safe people has already brought down the anxiety and confusion. And so I really thank you all so much for allowing me to share. Kathy, thank you for co-modding with me. And with that, if we want to just unmic and say goodbye, tomorrow we'll be back at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, with the Unstuck Room. And That's a great room to talk about things that make us, feel stuck in our recovery, or, perhaps paralyzed or stalled out. So I hope you'll mark your calendars. And again, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.